All right, very good. Again, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Lance Vaughn, and I am the director of the Mobile Innovation Studio here at iTexico. I've just recently joined the team toward the fall, winter of 2018, and iTexico recognized that mobile was changing. Clearly, mobile has been around for what, 10 plus, 12 plus years now. And just about everyone in the working world has a mobile has a mobile phone in their pocket, in their purse, on their desk. They carry with them throughout the day. Mobile clearly is not going away. However, there's a number of things that we need to do as product owners or brand decision makers, as businesses, to keep up with our users, to keep up with the changes that are in front of us. I've been working on this presentation very diligently for the last few weeks, and it truly is a culmination of just about everything I've learned in my IT career. I've been in front of a computer since 1982, 25 plus years of professional IT consulting experience. I come from a background of development, so I understand the engineering. But I also understand the importance of design. I've seen it. I've seen so many failures, whether it's the tech falling short or the team falling short or the design falling short. I want to share with you what I believe are the top 7 reasons why nobody cares about your mobile app. It's going to be a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but it's also very, very serious. I've got about 50 slides here. I'm going to do my best to keep it under 30. And I will do my best also to stay on point. So again, thank you for joining us today. So really quickly about iTexico. At iTexico, we are a near-shore digital innovation firm. So whether you're needing design help or engineering help or any help with your digital product, with your web app, your mobile app, we want to be your team. And that's who we are. That's me up there on the top row. I'm very proud to be a part of the iTexico leadership team. It's an amazing group, a good number of people. I think we're fast approaching 300 now at iTexico. The majority of our design and dev talent are all down in Guadalajara, Mexico, as well as Aguascalientes, which is about a 2-hour drive north of Guadalajara. Great team of iTexicans. We all love them dearly. Up in the US, we're mostly the leadership and executive team, mostly sales and some strategic consulting as well. That picture's about a year old or so. Again, we're growing very quickly, and we would love to potentially help you with anything that you need help with. So we've had a lot of wins over the years, and these are just a few of the brands that we have worked with and are currently working with. So our approach at iTexico is to help our clients. Again, we're a services company. We help our clients elevate their approach to mobile, specifically around our mobile innovation studio. And our challenge, our goal is to help you meet modern demands with what we call a user-centered product approach. We're going to be unpacking that a little bit today. So let's go ahead and dive right in. So again, the top 7 reasons why nobody cares about your mobile app. And at the very top, reason number 7, your app is old hat. So the idea here is, there are now literally millions of apps in the various app stores. I think the recent numbers are 2+ million in both the Google Play Store as well as the Apple App Store. And so what this means is that our users have options. If you, like many companies, got totally excited about mobile back in the late 2000s, 2010 plus, basically around 10 years ago, you probably scrambled to the market to get your mobile app out into the marketplace as quickly as possible. And if you haven't done much with your app since then, your user experience, your UX is so 2010. Your UI is likely generic, slow, and cumbersome. And that means it's most likely hard for users to log in, or potentially too hard to use. Is it a struggle for me as a user to authenticate with the app and then find the feature within the app that I need at this point in time? Or potentially you're sending way too many notifications. We're going to dive a little bit deeper into that. But I mean, if you're sending too many notifications, and it's really up to you, or more specifically your users, to figure out what the right number is. But if your app is annoying me, I'm likely going to uninstall. And there's lots of stats out there that are suggesting that most of the time, users will download an app. They might use it once, and then they're going to uninstall. It's the terrible truth. So it's time in 2019 to reimagine your app. This is all about the user experience. User experience design has really seen an uptick, rightfully so, in the last 5-6 years. It's super, super important, possibly even the most important thing for you to get right. It's time to make it as easy as possible for users to log in and use your application. Are you generating delight? You need to be. Delight for your users. Are you sticky? Are people coming back and using you more than once? Are they telling their friends and family or their coworkers about it? If the answer is no, we're missing the boat. So there's a shift right now happening in the mindset or paradigm, a trend in the mobile world where we're shifting away from a focus on hardware and shifting toward the user. It's time to stop thinking so much about the devices or getting hung up on iOS versus Android, cross-platform versus native. What are we doing with the user? Are we helping them in some important way? So the reason this is so important is, again, because mobile has been around for so long, again, over a decade now. It's still a little shocking to say that. There's millions of apps, and we have a general fatigue as a consumer or as a user base. There's too many options, and folks are less likely now to open up the app. They're less likely now to download the app. Consumers have become digitally savvy, much more educated, and I'll even argue fickle, right? Demanding more value and usefulness from brands. Mobile users today are swimming in this growing sea of data, devices, content, and social media, while we all struggle as product owners, as companies, as brands, competing for their attention. This is my favorite slide. Many of you might even recognize it as it relates to user experience versus design. So the question here is, have your users' expectations shifted since the day that you originally built your mobile app? Or did you ever even have it right in the first place? And how can you know for sure? So that's number 7. That's my top my top reason why folks don't care about your mobile app. Now, I'm going to cover 6 more. You may know some of these things. My intent, my hope is that you're going to learn something along the way. I might introduce you to some new terms. My hope is that I'll inspire you and create a desire in you to learn more. So now, reason number 6, and again, as an engineer, this is my favorite. Reason number 6, you're not rugged. I'm 99% sure most of you are hearing this term for the first time. I am not making it up, I promise you. In fact, you can go to ruggedsoftware.org at any point and learn more about that. You don't need to do it now because I'm going to tell you the most important things that you need to know about Rugged and why it's important. Is your app potentially crashing intermittently or potentially on some devices? Are your users having to wait too long to see improvements? So what is Rugged? Reason number 6, the solution for Rugged, you need to be rugged. And yes, you can be rugged as a person, as an engineer, as a developer, as a company owner or product owner, and your app, your digital product can be rugged as well. Rugged at a very high level describes software development organizations that have a culture of rapidly evolving their ability to create secure, reliable, and maintainable software. Sometimes this is called anti-fragile. The beauty of Rugged is that it's much deeper than just at the skin level. There's many things that go into what secure or security means. How do you define reliable? Is it scalable? Is it available? Is it durable? Lots of interesting things in there for engineers to geek out about. And is it maintainable? So what does it mean to have maintainable software? It means that when you go and you ask your dev team to make a quick change, is it in fact quick? Is it painless? Or do they break tons of things along the way? So if you're not familiar with the term DevOps, there's tons to learn there. Again, DevOps is really at the heart of Rugged. In fact, sometimes you'll hear rugged DevOps or rugged development. DevOps is kind of at the intersection of development and operations. There are similar cultural divides, at least traditionally, between design and development. And you need to get all of your team members, anyone who touches that product, to work together seamlessly, efficiently, effectively, and hopefully passionately for the sake of your user. So DevOps and automation are the new competitive advantage. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. But first, my favorite analogy as it relates to anti-fragile. Think of your product as a cardboard box with fragile written on the side, and you're standing on top of the staircase. You drop that box down the stairs, and perhaps the first time you drop it, it breaks as soon as it hits the floor, or it breaks just a couple of steps down. So you go down, you pick up the box, you bring it back up, and then you fix whatever broke. And you fix it in such a way that it doesn't break again. And then you drop that box, and perhaps this time it gets further down the stairs before it breaks, or it breaks in a different way. And you get the box, you bring it back up to the top of the stairs, and you fix it in a way so that it will not break again. You continue to do this until you can repeatedly drop that box down the stairs, and it goes all the way down the stairs and without breaking, and it can do so repeatedly. This may sound like too good to be true. If you want to do some Googling on this, look up Netflix, look up something like Chaos Monkey, anti-fragile or rugged as it relates to Netflix. This is what they've done. Netflix went so far with the anti-fragile approach or the rugged approach that they even created their own framework of software that attacks the Netflix platform and shuts down pieces and parts of that Netflix platform to see if it could handle it. And in fact, now there's a whole army, I think it's called a simian army of all of these different types of software and different types of agents that Netflix created to attack its own product. Again, why? For the benefit of the user, so that we can sit down and enjoy a movie and without having issues. And that's how we create brand loyalty in our users. I'm spending a little bit longer on this topic again because I'm a little bit deeper and more knowledgeable about it and more passionate about it. And I pretty much guarantee you that most of you on this call are not doing this. I can't encourage you strongly enough to do it. Do what you can to start adopting anti-fragile practices. Automate security and quality and bake all of that into the development and release workflow. Promote developer responsibility. Gone are the days where your developers just grabbing issues from the backlog and fixing an issue or creating a bug and throwing it into production and leaving for the day. We need to get our developers much more passionate and understand that with great power comes great responsibility. And unfortunately, this extra effort is going to cost money, right? Quality costs money. And it's going to require executive sponsorship. And if you don't have it, maybe it's time to get a new job, right? Work for someone who cares about quality. And if you do nothing else, automate. Write tests that will test your code and automate. Automate, automate. We're living in the year of automation, 2019. I've read it in multiple places. If you don't have an initiative, an automation initiative underway at your employer today, maybe it's time for you to grab that and run with it. And what I'm going to do a number of times throughout this presentation is give you a place to go to learn more. This is one of my favorite books of all time. I love it. It's written as a parable. It reads kind of like Raiders of the Lost Ark. I've never read Raiders of the Lost Ark, but it's a very easy read. It's enjoyable. It's entertaining. And it's a parable about how I don't think they actually used the term rugged or even anti-fragile. It's written about 5 or 6 years ago. But all of the philosophies that I'm espousing here are in that book. The book has a happy ending, but it's a long and treacherous battle to get there. Can't recommend that book enough. Reason number 5, you're not being scientific. This one's hard for me because yes, I'm a software engineer, but I'm not the kind of guy that can just sit around and stare at numbers and ask myself, more about those numbers. But I recognize the importance of this. And if you're looking for a competitive advantage, if you're looking for your users to actually use your app and care about your app, you need to be more scientific. My guess is today, you're not actively learning about your users. You have no visibility into their behavior, and we cannot improve what we don't understand. My guess is you're not running experiments. I think we all know that science rules, and there's companies out there today that are leveraging science to gain a competitive advantage over their competition. If you don't have a scientist on board today, hire one. So reason number 5, you're not being scientific. It's time for you to learn through experimentation. This problem has been solved, and it's all about instrumenting your apps, and not just your app, but you can instrument your websites, your landing page. I know it sounds kind of marketing-ish, right? It sounds like A/B testing, and it is. Why is A/B testing important? Because we want to know what is the most efficient way to serve our customers. What is the best way to be sticky and create delight in our users? And we won't know that just by taking a big guess, right? Gone are the days of stakeholders gathering into the room and brainstorming old school, and we just end up going with what the highest paid person in the room says anyway. Now, data rules. So it's time to instrument your software, study your analytics, and begin running scientifically valid experiments. If you're familiar with the word lean, this is kind of where lean comes in at this point. I think most of us have heard about lean startups. It's this idea of building, measuring, and learning, and then repeating. And the reason that's important with startups is because they have typically a very limited amount of money, a very limited amount of time. Lean comes from the Toyota production system. It comes from manufacturing. It's all about minimizing waste. Are you wasting time? Are you wasting money? Lean is a great way to find out and to be a little bit more proactive as a good steward of your company's time and money and resources. So today, I'm just going to challenge you. Are you operating in the dark? The first step would be to instrument things like Google Analytics. Some of you might not know. You can embed Google Analytics into your mobile app, just like you can a website. And there's many other tools out there, some of them free, off the shelf, open source. Some of them cost tens of thousands of dollars. So do your homework, but do something. So just a little bit of background here. So what we're learning is that mobile strategies are changing very, very rapidly. We have to, as app owners, respond to these market demands. We have to identify and build the right features. And experimentation allows us to stay in sync with change. Again, going back to that user experience image where the gentleman was walking off the path. You know, users are going to take that path of least resistance. We know it. It's human nature. So mobile user experience will continue to leverage multiple devices and technologies. This is a fact, especially now that we're toward the end of what some folks are calling the golden age of the iPhone. We're going to start to see Android becoming more popular, and we're going to start to see families with a mixture of devices and device types in their lives. And it's important that your digital product, your app, your brand expression is consistent and useful throughout all of those types of devices. Reason number 4, I mentioned the word useful. Here it is. Useful is the new hotness. Are you doing anything to help your users do the jobs that they have to do? Are you really solving real problems in the daily lives of your users? I'm guessing no, not unless you've been doing some of this stuff that we're talking about in today's presentation. This issue, I had a coworker who suggested to me that this should be the number 1 thing we talk about, because if you're not doing this, if you're not solving a real problem, then why do you have an app in the first place? And he wasn't wrong, right? In fact, I would say if your app is not solving any real problem, take it out of the App Store. It's time to go back and maybe rewrite or reimagine that app from square one, because if it's not really solving any problems, or if it's creating a negative user experience or leaving a negative impression with your users, take it out of the App Store. Start over and let's get it right. So this has been solved as well. This is great, right? This is one of the great things about being so deep into the maturity of tech as an industry, is that we have solutions to a lot of these problems. If you've never heard of design thinking, or if you're kind of wondering what it is, design thinking is key and critical to the success of your application. These digital products that we're building are an extension or an expression of our brand. And if we're not getting them right, then we're actually doing a disservice to our employer or to our company, to our users. So it's time to design for our users and not for our stakeholders. Again, the highest paid person in the room is not the one who needs to be making decisions. It's time to work with your users, observe your users, and find trends where you can help them in their daily lives. How do we do this? we conduct regular design sprints. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. It's time to interview our users and test ideas. So if you're not familiar with a design sprint, I'll be referring you to a book here at the end of this section. But a design sprint is, it came out of Google Ventures, some really smart guys out in the Valley who were doing this at Google for Google. And the idea here is to get a commitment. Again, this is going to require an executive sponsorship. It's going to require a commitment at a high level to bring individuals in from around the company, and in some cases outside of the company, to identify a particular problem that if you as a business or an app owner, a product owner, could solve that problem in a way that is super useful and super helpful and different and more exciting and delightful than anyone else in the world or anyone in your competitive space, that's super critical to you and your business and the success of your team. So you get together. What's interesting about this started out as a 5-day exercise. It's now down to a 4-day exercise. Why? Because people are implementing this and iterating it, building, measuring, and learning. They're doing it a lot more. And along the way, some really smart people said, because we bring in a lot of folks from around the company, and most of them are very highly paid, super important, let's just minimize the number of days that we need to bring them in. And instead of bringing them in on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, we've recognized that we could do just about everything that we do on Monday and Tuesday, get it down into one day so that these highly paid individuals could just be in the room for 2 days. And then so what you're doing is you're understanding the problem, you're sketching out potential solutions and deciding which particular problem you're going to look to solve. And then we prototype that idea of a solution, and then we take it out and we test it. And so by the end of the week, by the end of this 5-day or 5-stage process, we've come up with a great idea of how we can be more useful in our users' lives, and we've validated that to either be true or false. If we've invalidated the idea, then what we've done is a very lean thing to do. We've saved time and resources. This is where the term fail fast comes into play. Don't waste time and resources. But you might also be familiar with a diagram similar to this one as well. This is a very complex diagram. And if you're not super geeky or the type of person who wants to stare at it, that's okay, because I have a simpler version of it, which I'll introduce here really soon. But this, you'll see design thinking on the left-hand side here. You might actually be familiar with, again, the terms lean and agile and how they're typically used in our space and by our team members and in conversations around products. This is a great diagram, and the reason it's become so successful or so prominent or pervasive is because it's pretty darn accurate. We're discovering what the problem is up front, and once we've identified that problem, then we go into this lean cycle of building and measuring and learning until we get it right, and there's no more room for improvement. This cycle here is really reliant on having an agile team that can develop solutions and integrate those features into your product. So in fact, there's been so many things written about, how do you compare lean with agile and are they competing with one another? How do they work together? And in fact, I've written a number of them myself. They do work very, very well together. It's easy to do them incorrectly. There's a lot of area for failure there. But this is that diagram. What I like about this is this first part here where we're really basically saying, if we want to break this down and make it less complicated, what we're doing up here is we're discovering the problem. So if you're familiar with, or if you're learning about design thinking for the first time today, that's really what I want you to take away, is this idea that we're discovering what the problem is. We're identifying a really hard problem that we can solve for our users in our users' lives that will create delight in them. It'll drive traffic to us as a brand, to our product. So what I want to do is refer you to this book. Some of you may have heard about it before. Jake Knapp comes out of Google Ventures. And this book, Sprint, is, in fact, if you're here in Austin, there's even a meetup that's all about design sprints. But it's all about solving big problems and testing new ideas in just 5 days. And there are many, many companies, from startups to enterprises alike, that are following the methodologies espoused in that book and making some major headway. So now we're down to reason number 3. You're not innovating. Users don't want to download apps anymore. We will, but we have to really want to. Users will pursue the path of least resistance. I think I've said that earlier. And you're most likely not testing new ideas. So clearly, if this is a reason that people don't care about your app, you're not innovating, it's time for you to innovate. And I want to share this experience with you. This comes from just a couple of days ago. I was in downtown Austin parking for South by Southwest. And I want you to recognize that what I'm trying to do here is to park. Clearly, if I'm just in this parking situation, I don't have an affinity for or passion around this particular brand. I'm likely to have very few engagements with this particular brand, which means I most likely don't want to have to go and download the app. In fact, I almost didn't park here because it looked like they were going to require that I download the app. Or get out of the car. I'm a user too. I'm a consumer too. I'm lazy, educated, and fickle, right? What I did park here because I used their other way of engaging with them, which was texting a code to a number. That then sent me a link. I followed that link to a website. It was a secure website, and I was able to put in my payment information in there, and then we had an SMS relationship there on out. It reminded me when I had an hour left of parking time. I think at one point I considered downloading the app just for the experience, but I didn't, because I wanted to have this experience with them. And I'll tell you, it was successful. I mean, here I am talking about it now. It impressed me. And this type of thing doesn't happen without doing things like design thinking or trying to be useful or helpful for your users. So it's time to innovate. It's time to consider additional ways to engage your users outside of your app. How are we making their lives easier? This is going to get a little bit geeky here. I love innovation, but I'm going to keep it super simple. There are, in fact, 10 different types and 7 different truths of innovation that are espoused throughout the internet, come from very credible sources. We're going to talk about them really quickly, and then I want you to understand why innovation used to be very complicated and potentially even risky, and it is no longer. Quickly, the 10 types of innovation. You can pick it: profit model, network, structure, process, service. Where are you as a company going to innovate? Well, the 2 at the bottom are the ones that are related to a product. And with iTexico, as a services company, we help our clients with their products. We help them design and develop innovative products. When we think about innovation, we're thinking about a product. we're not necessarily the right people to help you figure out new and creative ways to make money outside of the digital products that you have. So if you were just looking to implement innovation at your company and not just within a product, you would have to sort of go through this full list of the 10 different types of innovation and pick one to get started. And then looking for the 7 truths of innovation. And again, here I've pulled down to the bottom the 2 that I think have really proven themselves to be the most important factors when you're doing product innovation. And that's to be customer driven and to build an innovation culture. So the reason I wanted to bring these to your attention is innovation is a tricky word. And I got to tell you, I heard innovate and innovation 100 times, like in one pitch alone at South by Southwest. Everything is innovative now. And it's easy to use it as just a buzzword, but it's really hard to do and to do it well. And in fact, if this in any way interests you, I have a book recommendation that I'll be making here in a few minutes. But it was written about Lego, and Lego is one of the world's most popular brands. I have a strong affinity for it. I have 3 boys. We're always playing with Legos. I've got a couple of friends who are adult fans of Lego. And but what's interesting is if you go back in the history, Lego almost went out of business. They literally almost bankrupted themselves because they over-innovated. And the reason I bring these the 10 different types of innovation, as well as the 7 truths of innovation to your attention, is because Lego did all of that. They went all in, all across the board. They started innovating in every way to the point where they practically lost their identity, right? They were spending so much money and they wasted lots of money and time on products that weren't really resonating with their target market. The way that this book ends is they said the right way to go about innovation is to be very careful, to be focused, and to be disciplined. Now, when I think discipline, I think about science, right? I love to think of myself as a creative person, and I would love to be able to just create all day long. But at the end of the day, if you're responsible for a product or you're in a decision-making role in a business, you have to be a good steward of that company's money. You have to be disciplined, and I recommend you be scientific about what you do. So that's why at iTexico, we try to keep things super simple, but also accurate. You have a product, you have an app, and that's most likely why you're here. And you have a user. I'm hoping that you know your user very well. When it comes to innovating, think about that user and think about the relationship that that user has with your product. Are you being useful? Are you being helpful? Are you solving real problems in their life? And just innovate right there. There's no reason to get turned upside down and to get yourself all confused or go bankrupt the way that Lego nearly did. So the book I was speaking about is called Brick by Brick: How Lego Rewrote the Rules of Innovation and Conquered the Global Toy Industry. A wonderful book. I even bought it on Audible so that I could listen to it a couple more times. Really good. If you love innovation, I recommend it. And just to kind of wrap up here, I'm going to introduce a new term. And in fact, I kind of introduced you to it a little bit earlier. I kind of cheated. And that is, maybe instead of saying innovation, which I think most people would agree is pretty overused, let's talk about discovery. Because if you go back to that graphic that we introduced earlier, over on the left, what are we doing? We're discovering a problem. And on the right, we're developing the solution. let's keep it simple. Yes, we're doing design thinking. Sure, design sprints. Yes, we're innovating. We're doing lean. We're doing agile, but let's maybe cut out all the buzzwords and let's just say half the time we're discovering the problem and half the time we're developing the solution. And here's what I like to do. I like to think of discovery as something that is continuous, or at least it needs to be continuous. This is a simpler version of this graphic. At the left, we're identifying the opportunities. We're solving the really hard problems. Why? So that we can build better products. And that's just not something we do this week or just this year, and then we're done. It has to be continuous. So another recommendation here, this one's actually not a book. And I don't know Teresa Torres, and I'm sure she's probably working on a book. She's one of my favorite people to kind of stalk online. She talks about continuous discovery. You can learn more about her at producttalk.org, and I recommend that you do so. So reason number 2, your team is holding you back. Ouch, this slide might hurt. It hurts me just to say it, because it's almost like not even politically correct to say that maybe your team is holding you back. Maybe you're holding your team back. I would say that this is a problem in most places. If it's not a problem for you, then kudos, way to go. Your team, your stakeholders, your culture might be prohibiting investment into some of these things that we've been talking about. You're not investing in user research. Is that true? There's a divide between design and dev teams. They're working in silos. Dev teams might be just pulling tickets from the backlog. They're just bug fixing. There's a lack of excitement or passion about the app that you built so many years ago. No one's being held accountable for the success of your product. And my guess is you have no one with product, the word product, in your title. That's a little bit of a hint of what's coming. This problem's been solved, and it's around embracing product thinking. It's time to restructure everything you do around this idea of product. Companies big and small are adopting product thinking. It is the latest trend. Trends are not necessarily bad. Trend represents us learning. So it's time for you to hire seasoned product managers, in my opinion, if you don't have one yet. Product managers are not project managers. That's a topic for a whole nother day. And I'd love to give it at some point, or you're welcome to reach out to me if you're interested or struggling with that topic. A product manager truly exists at the intersection of business and user requirements and tech. So at the intersection, if you think of it as a Venn diagram, of business, user, tech, that's where product managers are. They're held, they're held to very high regards. It's one of the most difficult positions to have in an organization, because you have so many quote unquote stakeholders. I mean, how do you keep all of those people happy? How do you look the business or the stakeholders or executives in a business, how do you look them in the eye and tell them they're wrong? Well, you probably shouldn't if you don't have data, right? Scientific data that proves that what you're saying is true. So it's time to experiment, test, fail, maybe succeed, iterate, rinse, repeat. Some of this might sound familiar. A couple of slides about product thinking. We're huge fans of it at iTexico. It's all about tackling risks up front rather than at the end. Fail fast, right? And maybe work on the hardest problems first. Why build all of the easy stuff and then later find out, oh, that really hard thing that we kind of kicked down the road, we postponed until maybe we could hire a smart engineer. Well, that's not even possible. We can't do that. Guess what? You're not very lean because you just wasted tons and tons of time and money. Products are defined and designed collaboratively rather than sequentially. Collaboration is huge in product thinking. And one of the reasons is, I know I mentioned the importance of product managers or product management. Sometimes they're called the CEO of a product. That can be misleading, but it's also somewhat true. They aren't really the most important person, and they certainly don't have to be the smartest person in the room. Everyone from every discipline that touches your product or has any desire of making your product better, from designers to developers to operations to brand, marketing, key and critical decision makers in your company, they're all in the room. They're all making product strategy decisions. That is product thinking. And it's all about solving problems, not implementing features. So at the end of the day, this comes down to building the right product. That's what we like to think that we do at iTexico. It's not always possible, frankly, candidly, truthfully, because as a services organization, if our client says we want you to build this feature and I have no data behind why I'm asking you to build that, just build it already, we're going to build it. We don't want to do that. No developer wants to build a product or a feature that's going to fail or that no one's going to use. No one has any time or interest in doing that type of thing. And that's why product thinking is so big and powerful. So a book here, and I think this is my final book recommendation for today, is, no, I've got one more, is called Inspired. This is one of the 2 books that I've got on my desk on a daily basis, How to Create Tech Products That Customers Love by Marty Kagan. It is the #1 book around product thinking. I recommend you get it. I don't know most of these people. I'm just a fan of giving book recommendations. I love to learn. So, all right, reason #1. Oh my gosh, what could it possibly be? We've covered everything, right? Design, engineering, building the right thing, design thinking, product thinking. We talked about lean. We talked about agile. I don't know. I wish this was a classroom environment because I could then ask, the students in the room to guess. But I'm going to get straight to it because I know you guys have the rest of your day to get to. Reason #1 why people don't care about your app is your app isn't human enough. It's too hard for your users to do the job that they need to do. And it's time for tech to bend to our human needs. It's time to humanize your app. This may not have been solved per se. I would argue that it has, but it is happening. And if you're the type of organization that can be at the tip of the spear and lead this charge and be forward thinking, here's what you're likely doing. You're likely investing in research and development. I used those terms intentionally here. Well, what are we talking about research and development? We're talking about discovering, right? Discovering those user needs and developing them. We're talking about design sprints, design thinking, product thinking. It's time to invest in emerging tech. Artificial intelligence is already making a real impact on our lives. It's not going anywhere. Some of us want to just hit the big pause button in the sky, but we can't do that. Tech is continuing to evolve at an ever-increasing pace. Smartphones are speaking, listening, and understanding more and more and more every day. And I encourage you to explore this area. If you've never run a design sprint before, run your first one right here. How can you identify what emerging tech is happening today? What's some low-hanging fruit that you can quickly grab and put in front of your users and test it and validate if it works? So the job of mobile here is to be more productive, to help us as users to be more productive, right? And cloud services, we might think, wondering, why are we talking about mobile so much? Well, and where is cloud? Cloud holds up and makes mobile possible. A lot of the AI that's happening in the world today is not happening on our phones, but it's a quick call to a supercomputer in the sky and a quick call back. That mobile app can't do that unless your product team has stepped up and made it possible. And yes, there's some very, quick AI fruit out there that you can grab. If you want to know a little bit more about AI and machine learning, that's probably a topic for another day, or you're welcome to ask me. Don't get the two confused. They're very, very different. So there's a huge opportunity here, I believe, to infuse intelligence into our applications. And this intelligence is going to allow our apps to see and to hear and to speak and interpret this world around them. So this is coming. I recommend that you begin looking into it. If you're confused about this term, jobs to be done, that's my final book recommendation. We all have jobs to be done, whether they're social, economic, spiritual, personal. And we use apps, we use tech to do these jobs that we have to do. Typically, we have a very short amount of time or a short attention span. But if your app is not helping the users do the jobs that they need to be doing, then I would suggest to you that you're missing the mark. So that's my presentation. Couple more things really quick, and then I'll take some Q&A here. Again, I'm the director of the Mobile Innovation Studios at iTexico. I think it's time to elevate your approach to mobile, and I would love to be a part of that conversation. So reach out to me, reach out to iTexico. We've got a team, and we can help you in every single one of these areas. So we do have, this was one of the very first things that I did coming on to iTexico, is to implement a services framework. We have a team to help you with discovery, to help you build the right thing. We have a team for development, to make sure that you're building that thing right. And we have a care team to help you with continuous improvement. And all of this is built on what we call our right talent and right time promise. And that's what iTexico is built on. So if you're looking for something to do right away, I would say bring me in to your company for a short-term assessment. I'm going to be assessing the maturity of your product and the maturity of your team. So one-time engagement. I'm going to be looking at all of these areas all the way down toward the bottom. Are you doing DevOps well? Are you automating tests? Are you taking measures to make sure that you're delivering quality? Are you automating those things so that you can deliver features faster? So that you can test your theories faster? Are you doing user experience well? Are you at least trying to care about user experience? Are you doing any experimentation, and how are you doing innovation? This is what I sometimes call the Maslow's hierarchy of product needs. And that's our wonderful user at the top. Everything that we do as a product team is to serve him, to serve her. And so please reach out and let me know if that might be something that you would be interested in. I'd be super stoked to work with you and to work in this type of environment. So that wraps it up. Thank you, everybody, for being a part of this. This is my first webinar that I put on for iTexico. I plan to do many more. We've got a newsletter if you want to sign up for that. We've got ways for you to reach out to me, to get on my calendar. My calendar is relatively public. I make it easy for people to grab time on my calendar. I'd love to speak with you, buy you lunch, buy you coffee, learn more about you and how you work. And so with that, do we have questions? Okay, so we do have questions. I just have to figure out how to get to them.
I can help you reading them if you need to, Lance.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you, Anahi. I do see them.
Okay, do you have the Q&A board now? Okay.
Yeah, I see them. Perfect.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah, so let's go ahead and jump in here. So what type of technologies do you use or recommend? Oh my gosh, that's a huge question. And it really depends on what what type of tech we're talking about. At iTexico, we will deploy to Azure, we'll deploy to AWS, we work with the Google Cloud. We're really, truly tech agnostic, and that's interesting to me. In all of my previous employers, we had a specific thing that we did. But at iTexico, we build hybrid applications, we build cross-platform apps. We work with Xamarin and React Native and Flutter. We do native iOS, native Android. When you have a team of almost 300, you can have experts that have experience in just about every area. If that question was related to DevOps, there's tons of tools out there in the world of DevOps. Some fun terms to look up: Kubernetes, Docker and Docker Swarm, Ansible. There's just so much. I mean, we're living in this world now where you can literally begin deploying servers just with the punch of a button. You can write a little bit of Python code or a little bit of Ruby code and have an army of servers that can be spawned for your immediate need or the immediate need of a user. So it's a really wonderful time to live in. I don't know if that answers your question, but please reach out to me if you'd like to learn more about tech. I love talking about tech. So what industries do we work with, and how do they benefit from a mobile strategy? We've worked with healthcare, we've worked with oil and gas, transportation. We really, truly have probably touched just about every industry out there. And they all benefit from a mobile strategy in a different way. Again, this goes back to your user and what kind of problem you're trying to solve for them. And in each individual industry, we're solving different problems for different types of users. All right, so what is in store in the near future regarding mobile development? What digital trends are you expecting to see this year? I'm already seeing artificial intelligence happening. And I really do think that is not just the next big trend, but that's the trend that's already underway. I mean, if anyone here uses Gmail, we can see Gmail helping us complete sentences. Some people like that. Some people don't. I particularly do. I can write an email in much less time and get on with my day. So some questions here. What are some questions IT leaders should ask themselves in order to develop and deliver a winning mobile strategy? I think, it sounds like it might be a little bit philosophical, but I go back to product thinking. I go back to design thinking. I know titles aren't everything, but if you don't have anyone in your company with the term product in their title, then there's probably room for improvement. If the IT organization isn't recognizing the beauty and the value in product thinking, then you're most likely missing the target there. So it's important to be innovating. Research and development is ages and ages and ages old. And it used to be, the guideline would be spend 5 to 10% of your profit as an organization on research and development. So few companies actually do that. And one of the reasons why was because it's, going back to my slides, sometimes innovation can be super tricky, and it's difficult without the discipline. It's difficult without the focus. And that's what I hope that I've done to help you understand better today. So what is your advice to companies that haven't made mobile a priority yet? And why is it important for companies to tackle mobile? It may not be. Let's be honest. Not every company needs a mobile app. Not every startup needs a mobile app. If you don't have a mobile strategy today, then let's hope you don't have a mobile app in the App Store. I'll just say that. If you have a mobile app in the App Store and you don't have a mobile strategy, then please take the mobile app out of the App Store. We don't need yet another app that nobody wants or that is a bad reflection on your company, your brand, or your team, or your startup idea. So why is it important for companies to tackle mobile? I think that one's in our pockets today. And we've become extremely fickle. We've got all of these options in front of us. And if you as a brand or a company are not solving some important need that I have in my life, whether in my professional or personal life, then you're probably not one of the 5 to 10 apps that I use on a daily basis. If you want to be one of the apps that I use, then you need to be solving a really hard problem, and you need to be doing something that no one else is doing. And if you do that and you do it really well and you're creating delight for your users, I may hear about your app through my friends and family. And then you don't have to spend any money on marketing. So one more question here. So we currently have a mobile strategy. How do we know if we're headed in the right direction? Geez, ask your users. If you're not interviewing your users, then you probably don't know. So this, I know on one of these slides I talked about, does it feel like you're operating in the dark? Yeah, it was reason number 5, that you're not being scientific. If you feel like you're operating in the dark, you probably are. And if you're operating in the dark, you're doing yourself, your business and your user base a disservice. Just stop, right? Or reach out to a company like iTexico, and we'll help you figure out how to do it right. So that's the end of our Q&A. And thank you, everyone, for your time today. I hope this has been helpful. I hope I've inspired you to learn more. I hope you've learned perhaps something along the way. And I appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us, and keep your eyes and ears out for a future webinar. Take care.